this is the first history, a brief overview. After humankind had arrived on Earth, and everything was looking pretty awesome on Earth, which we refer to as Planet 1, it is the first Earth created by God. Humankind were living and enjoying life, and everything seemed good. There were angels with them who were helping them learn how to talk and learn how to survive in the jungle environment. There were wild animals on Planet 1, and because they're in a jungle, they learned which ones were hazardous through coming into contact with them. There were big cats and alligators in that region, and also snakes and scorpions. So the early creatures created by God were in that location. They did not try to explore different food types, fruits and vegetables. Those things had never been discovered. It's just simply one vegetable, and that was it. One day, God was on Planet 1 and opened a wormhole to the storage dimension to where Satan was. Now, before, the exit point was well above Satan and his followers, exactly 20 feet. And so God could speak through the wormhole entry point, and they could hear God, and God could hear them answer him back. They were very, very, very unhappy in there. But there was a miscalculation on Planet 1. There's a significant difference in the locations, because we're talking dimensions and we're talking the location of the wormhole exit point. The wormhole exit point wound up low to the ground. Satan and his followers, who were cold, hungry and thirsty in the darkness, saw the light and saw Planet 1 and ran towards it. They saw God as well and ran past him. That is how Satan and 100 million of his followers wound up on Planet 1. When they arrived on Planet 1 in Belize, they looked around and noticed humankind. Upon seeing Satan and his followers arrive there, God returned to heaven to ponder what had just happened. It was a massive disaster. In soul form, Satan and his followers were literally invisible to everyone. God was the only one who had vision that was capable of detecting and seeing Satan and his followers, or anyone, in soul form. The soul is the template to the body. So Satan and his followers become immediately envious of humankind, because humankind had food and drink, which was water or breast milk, and they were warm in their environment. They were naked, no need for clothing in the jungle where they lived. They lived happily, and the angels lived with them. Satan and his followers recognized the angels and hated them immediately. Satan then decided to make contact with humankind, and he found he could touch them and tickle them, and they would sense it. He could talk to them, they could hear him, and he could hear them. He influenced the people of humankind who were living in groups of families, and managed to convince a small group of them to fight against the rest. They attacked other tribes and raped and drowned and tortured and killed all of them, including the angels that were with them. God watched from heaven and was extremely distressed by the events. I was in heaven watching, and I was not happy because I had wives on earth who were trying to help humankind who were getting murdered. I complained to God and said I'd like to go down there and help. I was told I could not. I had to remain where I was. It was the safest place. One day there was a lightning storm and some lightning struck a tree and set it on fire. Satan and his followers thought this was quite the spectacle, but they also discovered that fire burnt burnt trees and vegetation and people. So they got their followers to get branches with fire and set everything else on fire. Eventually, humankind started to die out, and all of them died of starvation or from the violence that Satan had influenced them to do upon each other. When the last of humankind were on planet 1, God then asked me if I could go to planet 1 and kill Satan and his followers, and if I could punish them while I did it. I was then told to go and find the knife that Satan and his followers had cut their penis and balls off with. I searched around the area where they had once lived and found the knife. It was made of a type of rock, but it was incredibly sharp. It never went blunt. It is still sharp to this day. I then had some wormhole element fused to my skin on my chest, and this was supposed to teleport me back to heaven if I died. But then I was told I had to cut it off when I got there. This left me confused, and when I arrived on planet 1 through a wormhole, I immediately got the knife and tried to cut it off, but it wouldn't come off. And when my body died, which it did, I found that it was difficult to pick up the knife that I was supposed to use. But in soul form, I spotted some of Satan's followers. They then ran away. They'd shrunk over time to less than 2 feet tall. I was still 7'7". I grabbed the knife and found that I could carry it, clutching it to my chest. It was quite heavy and soul form to lift. I walked slowly after them, and they led me to an open flat area. In the center of it was a rock, and Satan was standing on top of the rock chanting how all the humans had died. They were very happy. They appeared to be celebrating. A soul weighs half a gram. So I walked through the group of Satan's followers. There was 100 million there, and stood behind where Satan was on top of the rock. He turned around slowly and then saw me there, and then I struck him with the knife and injured his arms and legs so he couldn't escape. I then proceeded to kill all of Satan's followers, and then after 9 years I then punished Satan and then killed Satan. Upon killing Satan, I then had to return to heaven, and the RV for this was for me to go to a hilltop where there was a tree, the only tree left standing. I had to climb up it in soul form, which was difficult, and then jump from a branch into a certain spot where there was a wormhole which took me back to heaven. When I got to heaven, everyone was celebrating that Satan and his followers had been killed. I took with me Satan's head. God laughed when he saw Satan's head and refilled it with a new skull. God then got me to go inside a chamber and refilled my soul with a new body. Everyone was still upset that humankind had died. Many of my family had adopted the young people and had helped raise them, particularly the Batches. Everyone was extremely upset that humankind had been made extinct, when it was brought up, why weren't they in heaven? God said, I don't want them in my house. So then we had debates and protests. There was crying and gnashing of teeth, but God still would not change his mind. He did not want them in his house. So I then spoke and said, I will find a way to fix this. I am the Archangel Daniel, and I'm from heaven.